I don't sing. The first time I hear my vocals is when we're recording the album, which is probably a bit of a strange thing to do. I've got the lyrics, but like I don't know what I'm going to sound like until I'm in the booth and we're rolling and we're ready to go.
What's up, everybody? It's Keefy from GhostCultMag.com. I am super stoked to be joined today for an interview with Jim from Iron Monkey, the legendary Iron Monkey. How are you doing today, sir?
Okay, so...
Pretty good, thanks. Jim, nonplussed at all, which is what I expected. I was saying offline, I am such a huge fan. I think my very first exposure to the band was one of those front mount CDs from Terrorizer or Metal Hammer back in the 90s. And they had like a compilation of the new thing coming out. And I think it was like just right before or right after the Earache signing. So super stoked. Obviously band's been through a lot of stuff with the passing of Johnny. Come back in 2017. Killer album, and now we have the new album Spleen Goad coming soon as we record this today. It's been a hellish last few years, so first and foremost I hope you and the band are whole as much as humanly possible these days, and I hope everything's well with you guys.
We're doing okay, probably doing better now than we have been for a long time. Between the last album and this album, we had fair share of problems, more than our fair share of problems actually, just trying to physically record this new album, because most of the songs for this album were actually written in 2018. Some of them were written in 2019, and we were ready to go. And we just had a series of fuck ups, one after the other. There were funerals, hospital visits, injuries, financial problems, a virus. There were like a few times we didn't think it was going to happen, but so we just kind of treated it as like a mission. It was like, I'm going to fucking finish this out a record at all costs. We managed to get it done. It was pretty grueling. Yeah, but we're doing okay. Slightly different lineup this time.
Right, of course, and that happens. It's hard to keep a band together, and power to you for just having the fortitude to make it through, because it's hard. A lot of bands have split up in the last few years, and touring is hard.
Well, some people wish that we'd have split up, to be honest with you. But we haven't, so fuck them.
Exactly. Again, as I reflected back on the 90s, was a time when CDs were still selling. We didn't have this weird digital world we are all bound to, and streaming. But it's nice to see the band landed with Relapse for the last record. It's nice to see this record come out again at Relapse. Man's Ruin also had a release with you guys back in the day, right before you bounced. And so, it's good to see you in the underground metal ecosystem, and Relapse, all respect, they do such good work.
Well, they're a great label. It's the first label that we approached when we reformed the band, and they gave us they liked what we were doing, and we got a good reputation, and they've lived up to that. Can't say anything. I've got no complaints as far as like being on this label as opposed to being on other labels. So it's worked out really good.
Very good to hear. And by the way, for those who are like me, a big vinyl fan, I go back and forth where I'm like, capitalism is evil, but I love the swirly vinyl. Some of the vinyl is already sold out, so that's a great sign. The pre-orders, there's no competition. It's not a metric we measure, but it's nice to see the merch moving and people are already online, like so excited for this release. I'm equally excited.
It's been better than we expected, to be honest with you. Quite a pessimistic bunch of people, and it's been pretty good. I mean, at the end of the day, we're going to do it anyway, whether people buy that shit or not. It certainly doesn't make a difference to me. How popular we are, and that's never been the case since the band existed. So, everything's a plus, I guess.
Exactly. And of course, just again, a band that I think, in the time apart grew like a mythological status, which was, nice for me as a fan to see. Like, I hope they come back someday. Love the 2017 record. Now, when you went back in to finish this record, which I'm not sure about that timeline, had any of your feelings about the songs changed, or lyrics or things, delivery approaches, thing in your life that maybe shaped the final product of the record?
Well, as I said before, we the material for this record, we've written most of that in 2019 off the back of the album before, and I'm kind of, in a way, I'm glad that we had longer to put it out, because I think it's made a better record, because all our frustrations and all the frustration of trying to get this record done and all the fucked up shit that we personally had to put up with has made this a better record. I think you can hear it. It's not we're not faking anything. And what was the other point you wanted to ask me? There's a dog.
No, just had anything changed for you? Obviously, you wrote those songs 4 or 5 years ago.
We've had a lineup. We had a lineup change. Our bass player from the first and third record. So I approached Dean. It was a last minute thing as well. I approached Dean from the second album and asked him if he wanted to step in. And he lives in Canada, actually. So he recorded some stuff over there, and we put it into the record. And as far as the process of putting the thing together, it's pretty much the same as what we've always done. Did the vocals on the last two, obviously Johnny did in the first two. I'm not really a vocalist. It's not something that I do. I play guitar, write songs and lyrics, but I guess the difference would be in the fact that when we're in the rehearsal, when we're going through the songs, practicing, like getting the songs, I don't sing. The first time I hear my vocals is when we're recording the album, which is probably a bit of a strange thing to do. I've got the lyrics, but I don't know what I'm going to sound like until I'm in the booth and we're rolling and we're ready to go. So it's a surprise to me. I don't. It's the first time I will have heard the vocals is when they're going down on the record, which is a bit of which I think it adds a little bit of desperation or looseness or extra energy to it. A bit more chaos in the vocals are quite chaotic.
Nice. Not to mention, you don't get sick of yourself. You have to hear these songs a jillion times before they're committed to tape or digital.
We were pretty bored. We were playing those songs, most of those songs, since 2018. So by the time we were putting them down the other year, we were bored of them. We would listen to them too many times.
Of course, yeah. And by the way, I don't know if how much time you have as a fan of music. We were based in Europe to begin with, and we have a large staff still in the UK. And so I feel like our website, we discover the new sort of underground British metal bands before anyone else, luckily for us. And I feel like there's been a huge wave of them: death metal, doom, sludge, whatever you want to say the genre tags are. Are you a fan of any of the more modern bands that kind of have taken some influence from your band?
I dip in. My favorite bands of the genre that we're doing is still the bands that were doing it first. Prior to us even, our main influences were bands like Buzz Oven, obviously I Hate God, Grief, bands like that. And I still think still think they are the best examples of that kind of music. The early bands that are doing. There's a lot of things that just sound exactly the same to me. I find a lot of it quite boring, and I listen to a huge range of music. I don't just listen to bands that have guitars in. And there's such a glut of it. I'm checking stuff out every day, but sometimes it's hard to find something that you really want to listen to more than once. So I listen to a lot of old stuff as well. There's plenty of music that were written years ago, that's still undiscovered,
Yeah, no doubt. It's hard to cut through, and there are millions of songs every year, new songs put up, and hard to, negotiate all that. I will say that some of the more recent bands we have talked to have, I didn't know we were going to get to chat, and I knew this record was coming, but, some other more regional bands to yours have cited your band to me, which is nice to hear. And I hear the influence of Iron Monkey in bands like Mastiff, who is about to drop a killer new album next week, and Earn, and those bands are, getting a lot of accolades and acclaim, and deservedly so. And I hear the Iron Monkey influence from them, even if it's just in little ways.
Yeah, but and from our perspective, you can probably hear all the bands in our style. So we're all everybody's influenced by it. And the more a genre goes on, the more there's the less sort of ideas are there. I think the more homogenized it becomes. I mean, as far as new things in style, the style that we play, there's a new Toad Liquor album. It's pretty good. But I don't sit around listening to sludge all day. I sooner listen to doom metal, to be honest with you.
Also one of my preferred genres. Although I don't look like it today with my thrash hat and my heavy metal shirt. But yeah, I'm also that's kind of my home too. And yeah, you would be bored. You would be bored, and it would probably negatively impact the music you make, perhaps, even though, maybe what comes out of you is just natural to you. And again, the centrifuge of the original influences. But, maybe if you just inundate yourself with the same music all the time, you'd become bored.
Yeah, I mean, like this style of music to me is hardcore punk and doom metal. It's a mix of the two things. So I guess, I still, listen to those two styles of music, guitar-wise, probably more than anything else, really. I mean, we've got still, I still consider us a hardcore punk band, really. When we started, we would consider ourselves a hardcore punk band. We're all from hardcore punk bands originally before we started the band. And we're like hardcore punk guys playing metal, really. That's what we're doing, essentially. I mean, I think this style of music was like introduced to the metal crowd after it was introduced to the hardcore, maybe that kind of scene. Those early sludge records were on hardcore labels, and most of the early gigs that we did were, we were that kind of band.
Right. On my podcast partner that I do a regular series with, he says when hardcore guitar players learn how to actually play their instruments, they become metal bands, which is very funny and kind of
there's some great hardcore punk musicians.
True.
Like there's like there.
Yeah, for sure. My all-time favorite.
Then again, that's not like something that you necessarily have to have. That kind of music. You muted yourself there.
Yeah, I did. I want to let you talk. As I said, plenty of me to go around, and I want to hear from you. But yeah, absolutely. There's also some genius hardcore bands and musicians, but it's just a funny generalization. Anywho, let's move along and do a little track by track here of Spleen Goad. I love this record, but I want to hear anything you have to share about it will help us light our way about understanding it a little more. So the album kicks off with the awesome single. There's a great video for this also, Misanthropizer.
Yeah, I think that song is probably the most recognizable stylistically, or one of the few that most stylistically recognizable iMonkey song. It's a pretty simple, straightforward song. There's a couple of lead parts in it which we've never really done. Well, probably once or twice, like in the past. So those guitar leads were kind of ad lib as well. We were in the studio. I hadn't worked anything out. I just ripped it, and that seemed to fit. So yeah, that's a pretty straightforward iMonkey song, I guess, and it seems quite well received.
Indeed. I love the opening track there, and immediately announces itself as an iMonkey song. Phenomenal guitar tone, just everything about it. The second track, of course, is Concrete Shock.
Yeah, that's got some Sabbathy bits and quite a bit of groove in it. Yeah, I don't really know too much what to say about that. I mean, it's another fairly straightforward track. The lyrics are quite abstract as they are with most of the lyrics on this album. The lyrics on the last album were a little bit more straightforward, but I went back into the style that when me and Johnny were originally writing lyrics, that are kind of almost like a cut and paste style, but not actually physically cutting things out. But in your head, yeah, I think that's a pretty meaty, solid, heavy song. Yeah.
Definitely, and of course, rest in peace to Johnny. Tragic loss. The third track is CSP.
It's a little bit slower. Again, another pretty straightforward song. We don't do anything. There's nothing fancy with anything that we're doing. It's just down, tune to beat, put a simple groove in there, and I'll go and scream over the top of it. There's a little bit of noise. There's a bit of a noise section at the end instead of a guitar solo. So we just fucked about with some noise stuff. We stuck that on there. Thought that was like a kind of suited the fucked up nature of the album.
I love that skronky guitar sound. Whatever it is that you got that. However you manage that sound, it's fantastic. Perfectly done.
Yeah, it's just feedback and kicking the guitar about, and then just fucking about the pedals. Really, I mean, we're so stripped down and basic as a band as much as you can be. I mean, none of us are particularly into doing anything with any kind of finesse. It's really stripped down to the bang. I mean, I'm using a cab and one pedal, and that's it. You just do what you can get. If you know what you're doing, it sounds okay. I use a Metal Zone pedal, which is apparently a really disliked guitar pedal, and I use a really battered old Marshall 800. Simple as possible, but done effectively, I think.
I have never understood the dislike for the Metal Zone. It is fantastic. All my favorite records use that pedal. I understand there's different, all kinds of different things available these days. But to me, the hatred that pedal gets in hindsight, it should be like on a pedestal, not.
People don't. I mean, I don't know anything about guitar equipment, or I'm not into any of that shit. I don't really care about pedals and guitars and heads. I don't give a fuck. But I guess with that one, it's just how you dial it in. The few knobs in the front, you just got to dial them in right. Fuck about with it. And I use it as a distortion pedal, and I use the distortion on the head as well. So, but I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm not a musician. I don't see myself as a musician. I don't really know what I'm doing. We're like we're a punk rock band. We're not we're not a heavy metal band. We're not a stadium band or anything like that.
Right on. Leave that to everybody else. The fourth track on the record is Off Switch.
Yeah, I think that's got a really simple, ignorant riff, which is the whole intention of that. Wanted to do a really primitive riff. There's only a couple of riffs. There's only a few riffs in that track, and I just wanted to really bring it down and make something really ignorant and filthy. And there's 3 leads on it. As a guitarist, quite influenced by Greg Ginn from Black Flag, and I think you can hear that in the lead parts, and that's definitely got a Black Flag influence on it, which is important to the sound of the band, that particular band. Really, really primitive, really straightforward, knuckle dragging song.
It's a good song to punch out your friends to. The next track is Rat Flag.
That's the fastest on the album. I think it's the only sort of fast. I wouldn't say fast, but that's like quite a punky sounding song, but it's got like a really slow, heavy, groovy midsection in it. And again, that's got quite a bit of hardcore punk influence, and it's kind of quite an amusing one to listen to. If you catch, there's a little reference to a certain artist in there that I won't go into, but it's quite a fun track for us.
Right. If it's got to stay fun, or it's you got to make music for yourself. Number one, before you do it
the most
for anyone else.
fun band that you can imagine. There's nothing fun about being in this band. Well, maybe that song, but there's nothing fun, enjoyable about being in this band.
Indeed. Forgive me for this next one. I assume it's lead transfusion, but as an American, we're fond of saying lead there.
Yeah, it's lead, as in the metal. Lead transfusion. I think that was probably the first track that we wrote for this album. So we wrote that in probably early 2018. So that's the oldest track. Yeah, kind of mid-pace, heavy. Yeah, I don't really know. It's quite nice. It's got some venom in it.
Definitely. Ex-Lext is the next track.
Yeah, that's how. I suppose that's a fuck you song if you read the lyrics to it. Yeah, another straightforward kind of like a little bit more of a mid-pace. It's got punch to it, I guess. Not apart from going at the lyrics with the music. There's not a lot, to say. I guess you just got to listen to it.
Indeed. The next to last track is the lengthier track, The Gurges.
Yeah, another kind of Black Flag influence song where from there's some of the slower Black Flag stuff, which influenced the stuff that the style of music that we play. So that's a real fucking mentally fucking torn to pieces, fucking screaming, fucking dirge of the song. It's a bit similar to like Off Switch. There's a bit of more of a free flow on the vocals there. It's actually my favourite track on this one. I think it's slow, but it's really intense. I think so.
Definitely one of my favorites also. And the final track is OD Rose, which has a wonderful ending. And I was going to ask you specifically about
that's
that.
just that's a noise track. It's a noise track. We kind of did something similar on the second album. It's a noise track, and there's some slowed down vocals on it. You know, sampled some of my vocals, and you can just hear them, and they're kind of stretched out over the track. That's just a fucking noise, irritating noise to put at the end of the record.
It's a good way to go out, though. Very strong. I really dig this record. I can't wait for other people to hear it. Just for a last thing, obviously with the now, sort of new makeup of the band, are there any plans to do some gigs or a tour at all? I know it's probably a struggle right now.
Yeah, we've got plans to do it. We just because Dean, we got Dean back in the band. He lives in Canada, so it's just logistics of organising it properly so he can come over and do some shows. And I don't think we'll be doing any lengthy tours, so we'll be picking and choosing what we do and trying to get that done in as efficiently as we can. So that's something we're talking about at the moment. But it's our intention to pursue that. We didn't tour the last album because I was too sick, so that kind of fucked up the last promoting the last album live. There was some shows done, but they were done without me on vocals. I was too sick.
Yeah, totally understandable, and it's been a whole mess of a time in the world.
It's life.
Yeah, appreciate you. Thank you for coming back so strong with this killer album. Don't let them grind you down, and just thank you so much for hanging out with Ghost Cult today, man. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Cheers.